So this week, Wall Street's entire safety net just failed, and I need to show you why this matters to your money right now, especially if you're in real estate. Here's the thing, for 18 plus years, the system they built to prevent another 2008 worked perfectly. Zero failures, trillions of dollars, and then this week, it broke for the first time. And the reason it broke isn't what Wall Street expected. It's not bad loans, it's not hidden leverage, it's something they literally couldn't have predicted. I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened, why it matters, and here's the part that's going to surprise you. Why this is actually good news if you're positioned in the right assets. Okay, so literally this week, a major CLO fund managed by Bain Capital got degraded to default status by Finch. This is significant because here's the thing, this is the first default of a CLO built under the post-2008 safety net rules. 15 years, trillions of dollars, zero defaults until now. Now you might be thinking, okay, one fund defaulted, why should I care? I'm not in private credit. Fair question. But here's why it matters to your money. This fund held corporate loans, software companies mostly, companies that took out $5, $10, $50 million loans, betting their growth into their debt. The investors in this fund, pension funds, hedge funds, family offices, they thought they were buying a safe investment. The ratings said AAA. The structure was sound, the underwriting was solid, and then everything changed. And here's the thing that's going to blow your mind. This fund wasn't badly managed. It wasn't a rogue operator or a hidden leverage or fraud. It failed because something that regulators literally could not have predicted when they designed the safety net happened. So let me show you what happened. Because to understand why Bain's fund broke, you need to understand how the whole system works. And then you need to understand what changed. So let me show you how this system actually works. So picture this, it's 2007. So a bank makes home loans, homeowners pay interest every month. Cool, right? But the banks say, I don't want to hold the risk. What if they default? So they do something smart. They bundle a whole bunch of these into a package and they call them CLOs. All these home loans gets dumped into this one big package. They bunch hundreds of these mortgages together and they sell them as bonds. Investors love it. They get steady income. Bank loves it because now they can make more loans and flip those again. But here's where it gets dangerous. You see, banks stop caring if the loans are good because they're not holding the risk anymore. It's sold to someone else. So they start making loans to people who shouldn't get loans. Subprime borrowers, non-verification, no skin in the game. But they bundle a few good ones with all the bad ones and sell them to investors who have no idea what they're actually holding. So all these bad debts gets bundled together with a few good ones. But of course, the bad debts outnumber the good ones. So this is 2007. It seems to work. And then 2008 hits. People started defaulting and the whole system collapsed. Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, AIG, nearly $800 billion in losses. All collapsing. So the regulators say never again. We're rebuilding this from the ground up. Enter CLO 2.0. Here's what they fix. 1. Banks have to keep a piece of the risk. They have skin in the game. 2. Better underwriting. No more garbage loans. 3. Transparency. Investors actually know what they're building. 4. Clear, standardized layers. The logic made sense. Better loans, more transparency, bank holding risk. The system should hold. And here's the crazy part. It did for 15, 16, 17 years. Zero defaults. Not one CLO built post-crisis rules ever failed. Trillions of dollars, thousands of funds. The system worked perfectly. But here's what I realized when I was researching this. Wall Street got something fundamentally wrong. You see, they thought if you fix the structure, better underwriting, more transparency, skin in the game, that the system is safe, but they missed something from nature. You ever think about redwoods? Those massive forest trees? The interesting thing is they don't survive wildfires because they built a better tree. They survive because their roots go deeper than the fire can burn. And here's the point. The structure can burn completely, collapse entirely. But if your roots are in something real, something tangible, something people actually need, you survive. This week, the structure burned, the credit system failed, and that failure just proves something permanent about real estate. But let me show you what actually broke and why it matters. So what does CLO stand for? It stands for Collateralized Loan Obligation. Super fancy term, but let me show you how it actually works. Imagine you're a bank, you make hundreds of different business loans. That's hundreds of millions of dollars in loans that you're holding. You're holding all the risk, but you don't want that. So you bundle them, slice them up into layers like an apartment building. So the top floor is the lowest risk. It gets paid first. So it's like 4 to 5% return. Gets paid first, lowest risk, so lower return. The medium tier is here, medium risk, and the return here is around 6 to 8%. And the bottom tier is higher risk, but you get paid anywhere between like 15 to 20%. If it works. The logic, if you spread your risk across enough companies, most will be fine. The top floor, it's protected. The medium floor does okay. The bottom floor takes the risk, but also gets reward. And for 15 years plus, it works. No default. But then something happened that nobody predicted when they designed this system. Here's the thing about regulators. They fix problems they just experienced. So after 2008, they said the problem was bad loans and hidden leverage. Let's prevent that. What they couldn't have predicted, what nobody could have predicted, is that 15 plus years later, a technology would exist that could replace an entire industry overnight. Rewind back to January 2026. Claude gets a major update. Suddenly, AI can write codes, design systems, handle customer service, and here's what happened. A software company that used to charge $30,000 per year for their platform, now their customers just use Claude for $20 a month. An engineer that used to build $150 an hour, AI does their work for free. Now, who's holding the debt of these software companies? The CLO investors. They're holding loans for software companies who took out $20 million betting on recurring revenue that's about to disappear. Here's the thing that blows my mind. The CLO wasn't badly built. It was well underwritten. The companies had solid management. The structure was sound, but the asset changed. The business model became obsolete, and there's nothing backing the loan but revenue that won't materialize. JP Morgan estimates $40 to $150 billion in loans inside CLOs are exposed to this exact same disruption. UBS model default rates hitting 13%, more than triple the historical average. In a $2 trillion market, 13% defaults isn't a correction, it's a collapse. Now here's the part that matters to you specifically. When a multifamily property goes through a downturn, neighborhood changes, tenant quality shifts, economic pressure, what do you have left? You have the building, you have the land, you have the tangible asset. You can re-tenant, refinance, sell to another investor. It has value independent of market conditions. But software, when the business model gets disrupted by AI, what's left? I'm gonna give you a concrete example because this just happened to us. For years, the Kitti Sisters paid a company $30,000 a year for an investor portal. Real company, real traction. The portal was the Cadillac standard. Last month, I used Claude and rebuilt the entire thing in 25 hours from scratch. The same standard. Now imagine you're the software company that took a $20 million loan, betting on that $30K recurring revenue, counting on customers like us to keep paying, but we don't because we either build it ourselves or we use Claude directly. That's not a market downturn. That's an entire asset class becoming horseless. And the CLO holding your debt, they're not holding a loan backed by real assets. They're holding a loan backed by revenue that's about to evaporate. So here's what you actually do with the information, because knowing the problem is only useful if it changes how you position yourself. And this is where it gets interesting. First, if you have a refinance window coming up within the next 12 to 24 months, lock it in now. Why? Because what's about to happen is lenders getting spooked. When they get spooked, spreads tightens. Your 6.5% interest loan right now that's available in today's market becomes 7.5%, 8% in 6 months. We just closed refinancing at 6.39% fixed. That window doesn't stay open. If you have optionality right now, use it. Second, any variable rate debt right now, lines of credit, ARM loans, anything tied to prime, convert to fixed. Why? Because when private credit tightens, banks pull back on variable lending or raise margins aggressively. Your prime +2 at 8.5% today could become +4% next year. Fixed locks certainty, variable locks in risk. Third, I know credit is available. In fact, lending's happening today. Your bank is calling, but don't max out your leverage right now. Here's why. In 12 to 18 months, when credit tightens, lenders get conservative, higher equity requirements, lower LTV ratios. If you're already maxed out, you're stuck. But if you keep 20 to 30% borrowing capacity in reserve, when others get desperate, you're the ones with optionality. That's how wealth is built in cycles, not by avoiding downturns, but by having flexibility when they hit. Fourth, if you're raising capital right now, start building those relationships while investors are confident. In 6 months, when CLO defaults become mainstream news, capital gets tighter, terms get worse. If you build those relationships now, during the easy window, you're in their good graces when it gets harder. Communication, portfolio resilience, demonstrating you're not over-leveraged, that matters more than ever. Fifth, when this tightening happens, forced sellers appears. Investors who are over-leveraged, companies that can't refinance, deals built on assumption credit would always be easy. If you've done the steps 1 through 4, lock in the refinancing, maintain reserves, keep debt manageable, build capital relationships, you're the buyer when the others are forced sellers. In 2008, the investors who survived weren't lucky. They had cash and credit when prices collapsed. Do that now, position yourself so when the refi window hits, you're not desperate, you're ready. 6, don't be dependent on one funding source. Multiple sources of capital, multiple structures, multiple partnerships. That's what keeps you moving forward when others are frozen. One capital source, that's risk. Multiple, that's resilience. So here's the thing, Wall Street tried to to build a system to prevent another 2008. What they didn't predict was technology would move faster than regulations. The safety net didn't fail because of bad loans. It failed because reality changed faster than anyone imagined. And that failure proved something permanent. The redwoods survive fires because their roots go deeper than the fire can burn. People need housing, always will. Multifamily investors have deeper roots than anyone in the capital market right now. While everyone else is panicking about the credit collapse, you know the truth. Tangible assets don't care about financial disruption. They care about what people need. That's why multifamily isn't a hedge against this crisis. It's the proof that you were always in the right place. If you want to see ahead of these shifts before they affect your portfolio, subscribe. I break down how market cycles create wealth for the people who understand them. And drop your allocation in the comment. How much your portfolio is still dependent on credit structures versus real assets. The redwoods will be here, will you?